This is a project that was done in the border between South Africa and Zimbabwe. So these are farm laborers that live in that area.
I visited David Koloane, one of the first and one of the most famous black artists in South Africa. David will tell you about the life under apartheid and how it changed over time. He will describe Joburg as a city in motion. I really like that because cities do adjust their functions to the current situation. If we understand how to manage this process well, we'll create an excellent space for us to live.
I was born in Joburg, but north of Johannesburg in a township called Alexander. Most of my high school, I was living in Soweto. And when I started getting interested in art, it was during my high school period when I met a friend who was an artist. This was during the apartheid era, and it was very difficult for black artists to become independent and free because their work was always labeled, as township art, which is where most blacks lived. So every type of work that artists produced was just generally labeled township art, even if it was not an artist called Bill Ainsley. And I worked with this artist in the city, started what was called the Johannesburg Art Foundation. He accommodated students from every kind of racial background, not only white students, but also students from black communities. So I was one of the first students of his. And during that time, there were a few students. I was the only black student at the time. But he showed me, he showed me how to use color, how to use graphic material. And he also had a library of books so that I could read. And he also had a library of slides so that each month he would show work of a different artist workspace. Because all the townships were built in a uniform manner. They were four-roomed houses, irrespective of how many members were there for us, because at the time, as a black, you couldn't own property in the city, nor live in the city for that matter. So we looked around this area and around the market theater near the museum. There used to be a produce market where there were vegetables and, there were abattoirs where they slaughtered cattle for food, and there were vegetable markets all over the place. And so this area, because at the time South Africa was divided into different racial zones, there were white zones, black zones, and this area was known as a grey area because of the market where people from different race groups came together. And when this building used to be a bag factory attached to the market, manufacturing vegetable bags for the market. So that is why it's still called the bag. During the apartheid era, the city was only for white people. The only blacks that were present were only those who were working as security guards or as messenger boys delivering letters around the city, or in a restaurant where they were either chefs or waiters. But during the night, the city was white. You could never find a black person. Slowly and slowly, people started moving into the city, to live in the city, to be nearer their workplaces. Become more colorful. At night it is now more African. You find the opposite, that now there are very few white people in the city during the night, but there are more black people because now they are living in the city. So I've been recording those changes from that time up to the present moment. And for me, it's an exciting period that shows, what a city and what government laws can do to a city They can either build it or destroy it.
How should we understand the city in motion?
Well, I think, you know, what I mean by motion is because in South Africa, when gold was discovered, there's always been a motion of people who were employed by that industry. Let's take gold mining, which was discovered in 1886. Or it started what is now known as the migrant labor system, where people from different countries, as far as Zambia and Malawi, came down to South Africa to work as miners. So that motion has never stopped up to today. Notion of coming to the city to make some money and sending it back to the rural areas. In the rural areas, life is slow, but in the city, life is fast. And you also have to think, you must be a fast thinker.
If you could change anything or improve anything, would you change anything about the area, like a downtown?
Yes, I would change it definitely, because especially this area around the market, I would change it into an artistic village where artists would have their own homes, and then there were art schools, and there were galleries and museums. I would transform this whole area into a cultural.
How do you think? Is it safe or?
No, I think this area is one of the safest actually. That is the only place where people from different race groups can get together until late at night, because of the activities around the theater and the music and the restaurants around there. I foresee an exciting change in Johannesburg, where, you know, because the city has been, a lot of the businesses went out of the city to Sandton and all those places. I see a return into the city. I see the city center occupying center stage once more, but on a much more vibrant and more embracing manner.
Waishayunina wayibiza ngeskebeleshe Waishayunina wayibiza ngeskebeleshe Waishayunina wayibiza ngeskebeleshe Waishayunina wayibiza ngeskebeleshe Waishayunina wayibiza ngeskebeleshe